Hey everybody, Tony D with I don't know what you'd call this. I guess you'd call it a hot take. And I just watched the video where your boy Zach analyzes this video from Marvel, How to Read Comics the Marvel Way. And I kind of wanted to add my 2 cents to what he's already said. Now, his take on this is that the host talks to people like babies. And Zach definitely has a point on that, so I'll show you some of it. Here's the opening.
We all love Marvel movies, television, and games, but some people, I'm not naming names, Kyle, find comic books a bit, well, intimidating. There are just so many comics over 80 years of Marvel history, and
So you could see, she's got a very sort of, as they say, wine ant kind of delivery to this. And, and not to disparage her, because her name's Lorraine. She hosts Marvel's Earth's Mightiest Show, or is one of the hosts. And she's an actress and comedian. Her pedigree in improv is pretty decent. So I assume that, unleashed from this particular format, she's probably a very competent comedic actress if given the opportunity to be so. So, when you're an actor or actress, you have to do what you're contracted to do or what you make money to do. You can't, be a maniac on a show like this. But Zach, I think, is correct in that she kind of talks like a baby. Now, I don't think she's doing that. I don't think that's necessarily her, take. I think this is what she's being directed to do, from my knowledge of production.
words. Some of this stuff may seem pretty obvious, like, hey, they're words, I read them in the end, but I'm gonna show you how text in comic books does a lot more than that. So, let's do it. The words.
Um, it's amusing, but it's not funny. Like, you know what I mean? It's not like belly laughs funny. It is a very sort of light and airy, not the kind of comedy you would see for a guy. This video's clearly been produced not for men, and I'll tell you why. And again, this is, I'm not throwing shade at Lorraine. Okay, if this was aimed at a male audience, that comic books typically are. Comic books are still read even now more by men than women. You would see a much younger girl. Now she's 40, okay, and she's not bad looking. I am not throwing shade at Lorraine, but if you are going to host something that young men like, you're gonna get a bikini model. You're gonna get someone who is at most 22 and smoking. You're gonna put her in a little belly shirt or a little baby tee, and it's gonna be hanging off her perky breast, and the guys watching are gonna be like, oh, that's the kind of host you get when you're selling to guys. Now, when you're selling to women, what kind of host do you get? Well, you could get a guy host, but unless he is like super dreamy, and you kind of want, you kind of don't want that. You want the girls to watch someone that could be their friend, right? Because women aren't as visually oriented as men. Men are visual. Women are, they're more complex than that. They are, when it comes to attraction and stuff, they sort of dig down. So when you want women to listen to you from a standpoint of a presentation, how do you present to them? Well, with men, you come up with striking visuals because they sit up to attention and go, oh, that's cool. What's this all about? With women, you have to sort of bring them in a different way. And this is the different way. This is Lorraine, your friend, telling you about comics. And she is in the age range that they're aiming for. She is pretty, but she's not too pretty, right? You wouldn't want that 20-year-old smoking hottie, because women would be, they feel threatened by women that good looking. They tend to be, oh, she's probably a whore. That's the kind of attitude women have with smoking hot women. They tend to see them as threats. That's something that's biological. That's evolutional. So you don't want that for a host when you want a host that would host a show about shoes or brunch, stuff that women like. So this is Lorraine. She could host a show about brunch or shoes or clothes, and women would like her because she's pretty, but she's not threatening. She's funny, but she's not too funny. She is someone who could be your friend and be chatty and tell you about how to do things. And the reason this is so simplistic, the reason this is being aimed this way, is because, as I've said, I think in at least one other video, the new model in Hollywood, the new demo that they're aiming at, is no longer the 18 to 35-year-old male demo. It is more like an 21 to 40-year-old female gay demo. And they decided this a while ago because I think a lot of people in Hollywood use Twitter way too much. And they're, so entranced in the Hollywood bubble, smelling their own farts, that they decided, oh, let's be cool and daring and change the audience around. Because they actually believe their own hype, right? See, the reason the 18 to 35 demo was the demo, the reason you aimed for that is because who are those guys, right? 18 to 35. Well, they're adult men. They're trying to date. They're trying to build families, or they have young families, so they have kids, and typically they're the breadwinners. They are the date makers. They decide where the dates are going. They decide where the kids are going to go. The wife tends to defer to the man in a traditional relationship. The people in Hollywood have decided, F the traditional relationship, we're going to go for the women. Now, that's not to say there's not an audience of women out there, but the idea that the traditional dynamics are dead is ridiculous. Yes, there are some people who have different relationships, and yes, there are people out there who, rally against them, and they do different things. They do what they want. I'm a person like that. I do what I want. I'm a weirdo. But you wouldn't aim your stuff at me specifically. But to aim your marketing specifically at women, it's a completely different ballgame. You understand that a lot of women like stuff that men just don't like. They just don't like it, okay? Men would be irritated by this because they would look at Lorraine and say, And again, I'm not throwing shade at Lorraine. She's perfectly fine. But because she's not super hot, they're going to tune out and go, well, what is she talking about? Comics? I can figure out how to read comics on my own. Thank you very much. Men are doers. Women, they would like to get these instructions not to read comics themselves because they're not idiots either. But they're looking at this for a friend of theirs, their friend's kids or their own kids. Oh, this is how you read comics. I watched a video on comics. Now I know how to read them so I can sort of skim through the stores and buy them. But that's not really a good marketing plan because comics are not something kids are coming up to their mommies about these days. They don't. What they want is a phone, and then they get everything. Once you got a phone, why do you need comics? There are comics on your phone. There's everything on your phone. You don't need comics. And so this avenue, we're turning Marvel into a lifestyle brand, is really selling her shirt. Look at her, or sweater.
Even have their own special Asgardian style lettering.
See, she doesn't even sell. She doesn't even sound all that enthusiastic about what she's saying. But see, you're more likely to sell this sweater that she's wearing than to sell any comics with this video. Because this branding, this sweater, right? This says, oh, I know, I'm going to buy this Captain America sweater. And I'm going to be so hip when I see my friend's kid who must love comics because I hear people love comics. And he went to the MCU and blah, blah, blah. This is the exact thing not to do. This is how you destroy a trend. It's not how you grow it. It's not how you grow your brand. It's how you destroy it. Because, someone who would buy this sweater is not buying the comics. They're just trying to be hip and in on what their kids are into. But those movies are done. The cycle of movies, until they go back to Captain America, until the Marvel movie, machine gets geared up again. That's just like one thing. And women will get rid of something that's out of vogue like that. All right? That in my view, that Captain America sweater's already out of vogue. You're not going to see any Captain America movies probably for a long time. At least until Disney cycles through the B-rate characters they got left to make movies of, and they decide, oh man, these aren't really working. Let's go back and recast Captain America. That's probably 10 years down the road. She's not going to wear that sweater for 10 years. Now, I mean, Lorraine might. She's on that show. But someone who buys that sweater, which is, in my view, the entire point of this video, really? She's going to wear it once when her kid or friend's kid or nephew or whatever goes, oh yeah, whatever. As a reaction, they're going to say, well, what did I buy this for? I'm not even that cool. I paid all this money and I'm not even, and then it's going to go in their drawer, never to be worn again. Until maybe they go to Disney World or until maybe they go see a Marvel movie in a theater, if theaters ever open again. This is what, the geniuses of Marvel have decided with the sort of lifestyle branding. Meanwhile, the comics just continue to fade in the background. To me, it's very similar to, and this is a bit where they bring out a another Marvel editor. I forget what his name is, but you can see what he's wearing. He's wearing a Carnage Never Dies hoodie. Why is he wearing that? Well, because the Carnage movie, the Venom 2 movie, is gearing up. Or it was gearing up. I mean, maybe now it's not. And this is coming out sometime in the future. So they want to start laying the groundwork for buying these hoodies and buying this merchandise. That's why it's here. None of this video, in my view, has anything to do with reading comics. They could care less if even one person watches this video and then runs out to buy a comic. This is about selling the merchandise, these guys. This is about selling the brand. And it's completely tone deaf for the people this could appeal to. If you were going to make this appeal to the real fans of Marvel's, the comic fans who built this brand and their progeny, which would be me and the kids who come after me, you would make it aimed at men. You would get a bikini model or a couple of them and a guy who would be dressed as Carnage or something, and he'd say, hey, a-holes, here's what's going on in comics today. And they'd show some panels from the comics and why you should buy them. He'd talk about their value because that's a way to entice guys to get into the hobby. I mean, he'd talk about the comics. The clothes are an afterthought for men, okay? If it wasn't for wooing women, I'm sure we'd all be running around pretty much naked. So, this is what it is. This lifestyle brand is about, in my view, selling clothes. And you've got these inoffensive people, they're not going to say anything untoward. They're not going to do any bits. They're not going to do any, Devin is his name. He's one of the editors, I think. So, and then they do this bit where he catches on fire using After Effects. And here are the comics. Here are things going on in the comics. And the funny thing is, and I'm surprised Zach didn't point this out, we're talking about dialogue, word balloons, and how they talk and how the pointer works. First off, the pointer doesn't point it at her mouth, anywhere near her mouth. And the font they use isn't even the font they use in the comic, which is a font. It's supposed to look hand-drawn. They don't use font like this, and they center it. So, which is just a comic book thing that it just annoys me. But again, I am not throwing shade at Lorraine. I'm sure Lorraine is a fine comedic actress. With her pedigree in improv, I'm sure she's very good. She just got this gig at Marvel, and I'm sure it pays very well. But in terms of comic fans, and look in the background, you got Groot, and that's probably Rocket standing next to him. The little figures there. Oh, and there's some action figures there too. That stuff is selling too. And what the heck is that? I don't even know. Is that like a CD or something? And you could see like her intonation. It's not even that exciting. It's like what Zach said in his video. It's like a wine ant doing it. It's like your aunt who wants to be hip. Oh, you read comic books, Tony? Oh, that's so cool. I like Spider-Man too. Flip. I read one the other day. Well, I didn't read the whole comic. These comics, these stories have never, ever been aimed at women except when they were women comics. And rather than just produce a line of comics aimed at girls, they've taken the comics, the whole line of comics aimed at men, and dismantled them beyond recognition at this point. They've drilled down over and over again, trying to get girls to buy the same product. And that's a real problem, because as they do that, they lose more of the men. And then they go, well, this isn't working. Well, we got to get more girls to read. And they drill down even further. Girls don't read comics. If you want girls to read comics, make comics for girls. Girls, I'll tell you the most popular comic for girls at Marvel for a long time. It was the Barbie comic. And it was the most girly thing ever, right? It's all about Barbie and her dream house, and her, she becomes a princess, and she goes out with Ken. Nothing ever happened in the damn comic that I could tell, right? It wasn't like Barbie was going to fight Galactus. Barbie did girly things. She went shopping, and she got a job, and she went on a date, and she did interior decorating. This is what girls like to do. It's not a crime. It's not a crime to acknowledge it. It's not misogynist to say that women love some things and men love other things. What next? What will you attempt to feminize next, Disney and Marvel? Will you buy the NFL and attempt to make it appeal to women more? Will you make all the uniforms pink and hot colors? Will you strip down the uniforms so the men are, you get to see their muscles more, and put feminine products in the commercials? I mean, you don't need to do that. You don't need to do that. There are things that women like, and they'll like that. You can make entertainment for women. It's been proven. They have channels devoted to it. They have the Lifetime Network. They have the Women's Channel, Oprah's channel. Go look at those channels and see what sort of entertainment. You'll see stuff like this. You'll see middle-aged women addressing the camera and talking like we're friends and we're gabbing away. I'm surprised she's not sitting at a table with a mocha latte. I mean, that's the only thing that's really missing from this video. And it's not that she's bad or the people at Marvel are bad. Well, some of the people at Marvel are bad, but I'm sure. But they are pursuing this course where they have to appeal to women. And they think Men are going to just sit there and go, well, this is the only place I can get my comics from. No, it's not. It is not. They're leaving in droves. The comic book stores are on their last legs. They're not buying this stuff. The only stuff they're buying is the stuff that's sort of backdoored into Marvel and DC, in my view. The stuff that still sort of follows the superhero formula that kind of nobody's paying attention to. But eventually they will, because that stuff will rise in sales. And the moment it does, the editors will go, well, we need to get Gail Simone on this, or whomever, and they're going to girly it up. So you got to stop girling up Marvel Comics is the answer here. This is not, this is for a beginner, right? Even if you acknowledge people find it confusing to read comics, and you make a video on how to read comics, you know who's confused about reading comics? My mother. She's in her 70s, and she tells me all the time. I said, Mom, did you read my latest comic? She goes, no, I can't. It's confusing. I go, Mom, you just read the panels left to right. And, it's too much for her. She doesn't like, she just doesn't like comics. And I don't blame her. It's not my mission in life to force my mother to read my comics. But this video, she could watch this and go, oh, okay, now I understand the language. But she isn't going to buy comics. She isn't going to start reading Thor after she sees this video. She's just going to go, oh, okay. Maybe she'd read my comics. Maybe I'll show it to her. But the thing is, if you're going to have a comic book company and you're going to make comics for whether it's children or men or whatever, you really need to understand your audience. And to me, this couldn't be a clearer indication that Marvel has completely forgotten their audience or just doesn't care about it. This just isn't going to work. You're going to see guys reach the point where Marvel, no, I don't buy anything Marvel anymore. I used to have, and you may have noticed from some of my videos, I used to have all kinds of superhero t-shirts. I am purposely not wearing those shirts anymore. I don't want to support superhero comics anymore. It's reached that point for me. I have spent a lifetime buying and reading comics. I don't buy them anymore. And now I'm at the point where I don't even want to support them anymore. The superheroes. I really don't. I mean, short of me getting hired to write them again, forget it. I'm just not that interested. Now, you could say I'm out of the demo, and that's true. I'm too old to be in the demo. You wouldn't aim a comic at me. It would probably be too slow for the current audience. But as a writer, see, I can recognize that because I understand what audiences are. This is the wrong audience. This video is aimed at totally the wrong audience. This is like, in the middle of a war, turning your guns in the complete opposite direction and saying, well, if we just keep firing a little further, we'll hit the enemy. No, you won't. You're not going to hit anything. You're shooting the wrong way. Marvel, you're shooting the wrong way. End this now. I'm going to add my downvote to this video. Not to throw shade at Lorraine, but because the entire concept is stupid and counterproductive to comics.